What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Inside Inter Miami, the Miami Herald's Inter Miami show. I'm Andre Fernandez, Deputy Sports Editor at the Miami Herald, bringing you another episode once again with Michelle Kaufman, our Inter Miami beat writer. We're fresh off the Cincinnati match, which unfortunately ended the playoff dream for this season for Inter Miami. Even though Lionel Messi was back on the pitch, not a full game, but he did play. He finally played again. But it wasn't enough. Cincinnati takes the game 1-0. And now Inter Miami fans are kind of left wondering, is Messi even going to bother playing in any of these final two games? And what's next for Inter Miami? Michelle, how you doing? And unfortunately, they couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, it was too much to ask, I think, without him and without Jordi Alba. We keep forgetting, but when you watch some of these early games, if you go back and look, I mean, they were a different team this summer. They were a very, very different team when it was Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, and Leo Messi, and everyone around them just feeling confident and more fresh. They weren't as tired. It was just a very, very different team when Leo Messi was scoring every single game. Jordi Alba was feeding him the ball from the left side. Sergio Busquets was making perfect passes to everybody in sight. Everything started to change when Leo Messi got hurt. Let's be honest. We're talking about the best player in the world. When the best player in the world is not on the field, it's going to be very different, and it affects how everyone else plays. Just like we've said before, when he plays, he gives everyone confidence. When he doesn't play, he takes away confidence from everybody because they're not as confident. They don't go in feeling that they're going to play great and that they're going to win, and they do when he's on the field. And the Cincinnati game, I mean, he really didn't play that much. He played toward the end. He really didn't look like himself either, to be honest. He had not played, he had played a total of 37 minutes since September 3rd. That's not, he wasn't ready, to play a full 90. And even the minutes he played, he didn't look like he was totally himself. He looked a little rusty, like anybody would after not having played for 6 weeks. They just were not able to pull it off. It was sort of a little bit of a downer, because they thought that they were going to have a chance to make a playoff run and they didn't. And now, yeah, there's 2 games left against Charlotte. The first game, I don't think would be possible for him to play unless he skips the Peru game. And it's many of the guys, 8 of the guys on this team have games on the 17th. So the next game is on the 18th. I mean, he's not going to come back from Peru on the night of this. He has a game the night of the 17th in Peru. He's not going to be playing at Drive Pink Stadium on the night of the 18th, one night later. That's just not going to happen. It is possible that he could play the season finale at Charlotte. I don't know. It's really going to kind of depend how he feels after playing against Paraguay on Thursday night and then against Peru. If he plays against Peru Tuesday night, he would be flying back to Miami on Wednesday. And then the game at Charlotte is Saturday. It would be the season finale. He would be available to play. It's going to depend how he feels. Maybe he will want to play just because he hasn't played so many games, and a lot of the fans have been disappointed. That's a big stadium. It would be a big crowd for the season finale to get a chance to see him play. It is on turf, but I don't really think that is going to be a deciding factor, although I don't know. We haven't had a chance to talk to him. So I haven't been able to ask him that question. He does have World Cup qualifiers, big ones, coming up in November against Uruguay and against Brazil, 2 of the best teams in South America, 2 of their biggest rivals. He's going to want to play in those games in mid to late November. So he's not going to want to aggravate an injury. So I'm not sure about the game at Charlotte. I doubt that he will play, very seriously doubt he will play the game on the 18th here at home because, again, he will have played the night before, presumably in Peru, unless for some reason he doesn't play that game.
Well, I honestly like just all signs point to if this was a regular situation, it's like probably not. You would think. I mean, what's their they're eliminated, nothing to play for as far as that goes. Why would you bother? If this was Jimmy Butler or some other star, but it's Messi and he's the attraction and the league wants to showcase him and all that stuff. But you're right. I mean, why risk it? I mean, on turf, and what you just said right now, they're going to need him for those important games for for his country, for Argentina. I don't know. I just don't see it. But you think? I mean, I can't see this really. No matter how much pressure the league puts on them.
Yeah, that said, there are plans, which I wrote a story today. There are plans being made for a tour, an Asian tour, where Inter Miami would play in some kind of friendly in China and in Japan. And that would be to showcase Messi. And that would be the first week of November, is what they're talking about. The reports from China and from Argentina are that the first week of November, Lionel Messi and Inter Miami will play some kind of friendly training and friendly games in China and in Japan. And those are both before the World Cup qualifying matches. So if he's willing to fly across the world and play in those games, it would not be good optics to skip the final MLS game, which is the league that he's playing in. They're paying him money. Apple's paying him a lot of money. The league is paying him. These are his Inter Miami teammates that, it's not that he let them down because he wanted to, but he was not able to play toward the end of the season, and that really hurt the team. It's not his fault, but he may want to come back and just play for the team one last time for the Inter Miami team, in an MLS season finale. So I really don't know. Again, we don't get a chance to ask him. He doesn't talk. He doesn't do press conferences, so he's not being asked these questions. Everything we say is speculation. Everything everyone else says is also speculation. What I do know is that, from a team source, reliable source, and from the reports in Argentina and a reporter in China that seems to be in the know about things about Messi and things about China, that Inter Miami is talking about a game in China and a game in Japan, an Asian tour to promote the league and the team, which put in my story, Messi has a lot of business interests in Asia. He has a massive, massive following all over Asia, as did David Beckham, and as does still David Beckham. They have a huge following in Asia. And, so it makes sense. And they have business deals there and sponsors, and they would want to have, they would want to do games over there. I mean, it makes sense. It would expand their brand in those markets, in those parts of the world where they stand to make a lot of money and get a lot of new fans to tune into MLS games and Inter Miami games. So, we'll see what happens. We have not seen the end of Messi in an Inter Miami uniform this year. I think it's possible that he will play, possible he would play the final game against Charlotte, although we don't know. And then I think he will be in an Inter Miami jersey playing in China and in Japan, possibly in early November before the World Cup qualifiers, and then a break, a well deserved break for the entire month of December, because this guy, remember, played a whole season with PSG and then took a little vacation and then came here and to a brand new league, was playing every 4 days for about 60 days, playing every 4 days, and really was playing his heart out. He wasn't playing like he was on vacation.
And yeah,
And he's, had to play all these games. So,
yeah,
I think he will deserve a break in December.
and playoff intense matches every time. Championships on the line, playoff spot on the line, that sort of thing. Michelle, though, I mean, how surreal is it though? And you've covered these before. Inter Miami being chosen to go abroad, the way Man U comes here, the way Arsenal teams like that come here and get. Could you have ever imagined Inter Miami being that team that gets an international showcase? How surreal is that? Bringing someone who covered them
Oh,
from
no,
day
it's
one.
very different. I mean, yeah, very different. Last year in the preseason, they did a tournament in Charleston, South Carolina, and they played some USL teams or whatever. I mean, no, this is a completely different Inter Miami team, obviously. Lionel Messi he's the Taylor Swift. He's the brand. He's the one that everyone wants to see. He's the celebrity. And they're going to take that show on the road, and they're going to take that show on the road to Asia because, like I said, this is a massive, massive soccer market, but a massive Messi market. And David Beckham. I mean, I was watching if anyone has not seen there are two docu-series that are out right now on this team. One of them is on David Beckham, which was absolutely fantastic. It was so well done. It was with his production group. It was with his total cooperation. He gave full access. He and Victoria Beckham and his family and his parents and his former teammates from Man U, from Real Madrid, from PSG, from here, Landon Donovan, and they didn't hold much back. They talked about all the controversial stuff and everything. But one of the things they show is the tour of Europe. When he was at Real Madrid and they did a tour of Europe, I mean, not of Europe, of Asia, they went to Japan, and it's just unbelievable. The fandom there is just so wild and so fanatical. And so it makes sense that this team would send Messi and Inter Miami to go to China and to Japan. The other docu series is about Messi. It's called Messi Meets America, and the first 3 episodes dropped. I was interviewed for it, by the way, but that's not why I'm telling you about it. But it's an interesting look at Lionel Messi coming to America. And it sort of chronicles the beginning of his Inter Miami phase of his career. The first 3 episodes are out. The next 3 are coming out later this season. But it's going to be unbelievable. I don't think the Miami Herald will be able to fund me traveling to Japan and China. In fact, my editor already joked with me, like, don't even think about it when I sent in that story. I said, "Oh, they may be going to China and Japan. It looks like." And my editor, don't get any ideas. Our travel budget is not that big right now, but it's gonna be really amazing. I mean, to see this team paraded around China and Japan with all of the fans. The streets will be closed. There will be parades. It will be wild, and they will do a lot of sponsorship events too. I'm sure for a lot of the companies that Leo Messi does business with and that David Beckham does business with. It's going to be a huge marketing tour for the team, for the league, for MLS, and of course for Messi. For Messi, the brand, but also for Inter Miami, the brand. Lots more of those pink jerseys are going to be sold in the first week of November if this tour, if they can pull this tour together.
Yeah, I was gonna say for people out there, there's a new show on Apple TV that's soccer related. Sadly, it's not Ted Lasso season 4, everybody. Not to get everyone excited. That's not happening. It's this. It's Messi Meets America. That's where you can find it. Apple TV. And releasing tonight, right? Or tonight meaning for people who are listening it Wednesday night, right? Is that when or did
It
you said it
released
already?
already.
It
It's
already
already
came
out.
out. Okay. So
It
people
came
can
out
catch
on
it on Apple
Wednesday.
TV. Okay.
Apple TV. It came out Wednesday the 11th. The first 3 episodes, talk about his arrival in the United States, and they interview him. They interview a bunch of other people about his arrival here, and they chronicle the first segment of the season, the Leagues Cup, and all that stuff. And yes, it's on Apple TV. The David Beckham one is on Netflix.
Right.
Very, very well done. That, like I said, they had full access to David Beckham, to Victoria. I came out of that really liking Victoria. I never knew that much about her, to be honest. I always just knew she's posh spice. She
Mhm.
always looks good. But she always looked a little pouty in the pictures. I never saw, you don't see her smiling that much. But after seeing what she's been through, having the paparazzi chase them in ways that no human can even imagine or deserve, them and their family and their kids, I can see why she would pout when the cameras are in her face. I could see that. But it turns out she's really, really bright. She's very funny. And she really opened up. She opened up a lot about the relationship. They talk about their marriage, the good times, the bad times. He even addresses the allegations of an affair during the Real Madrid phase of his career. And you get to see a lot of footage of him as a little boy and as a teenager, and when he first arrived at Manchester United, and his relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson.
Mhm.
Phil Neville is interviewed, and Gary Neville, who's Phil's older brother, is one of his closest friends and was teammate, longtime teammate. That he's really good. So anyway, there's a lot there. Both docuseries. There are no games to watch this week, but there are a lot of Inter Miami related documentaries on Netflix and on Apple for fans who want to tune in and just get a lot of backstory on two of the biggest figures on this team, David Beckham and Lionel Messi. And it's funny, the Beckham one, I don't want to kind of give anything away, but the David Beckham one ends with almost the exact scene of where the Messi one begins. And they were both done independently, but it's pretty interesting. So, the Beckham one ends with him, making a team here in the United States, in Miami, some of the struggles with the stadium, and then with Leo Messi arriving. And then Messi Meets America comes on Apple, a completely different production company and everything. But that one begins with Messi's start here. So and David Beckham is interviewed for that one as well. So a lot of Inter Miami and Messi related content that people can watch on Netflix and on Apple right now while we're waiting for their next game next Wednesday against Charlotte.
Yeah, a wildly popular figure like David Beckham already, and it must be doing well because I saw today he's gained hundreds of thousands. We're talking maybe like over 500,000 followers on all the social media platforms just from this series, just from people that are watching this on Netflix and maybe learning a little something about the superstar that they didn't know before. Like you said, sounds like a very in-depth kind of portrayal of him, his family, everything else. Did you get a chance
Yeah,
to see?
it
Did you
was.
get a chance to see the Messi episodes yet, or not yet?
I saw two. I saw two of the three Messi episodes. I'm going to watch the third one. I watched the first two. It was kind of strange to see myself on there, to be honest, because they interview you and you don't know what they're going to use, and
Right.
I feel kind of like an athlete or a coach sometimes. Oh, they only took one little snip of what I said. Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, I mainly just talked about being a reporter covering this team and what it was like before, what it's like now, what it's been like just watching. The number of reporters growing, the following, just how it's been so different covering the team this year as opposed to covering the team the previous 3.5 years was very different. It was just a few reporters who were really there every day and maybe a dozen that were covering the games. And now they get 400 people applying for credentials for the Inter Miami game. So, it's a look at sort of what how Inter Miami changed with the arrival of Messi, what he brings the team. So yeah, I watched the first two. I'm looking forward to the third one. The Beckham one is 4 episodes, and yes, it's very in depth. I mean, it's inside. A lot of it is inside their house. It shows you that he really is kind of OCD. He's neat. Nick is not the word. He's beyond cleanliness and neat. The way he has his closet, they take you into his closet. And first of all, we know that David Beckham is really into fashion, and you see that throughout the entire documentary, just how his fashion changed, his hairstyles changed, and everything over the years. But also just how incredibly fastidious he is about everything, how much he cleans around the house, how his closet is, and his hobbies. A lot of his hobbies that will surprise you when you watch it. I don't want to give it away, but it opens with a hobby that I never knew he had. He's got some interesting hobbies, and the relationship between him and Victoria is so interesting. Just him trying to balance. He's incredibly driven. He's really, really incredibly driven as a soccer player, but then also trying to balance that with married life and having multiple children, little kids. And she also was a superstar, a rock star mom with a superstar, sex symbol husband. It was very hard for her. It was really hard for her. And she talks about that in great detail and with great honesty and candor. They both were very open and very honest, as far as I could tell. I think everyone knows who David Beckham is, and everyone knows that he's really into fashion and he has a lot of tattoos, and his wife is a rock star and whatever. But you really get an inside look at his personality and his quirks and his struggles, which there were many. He had many struggles professionally and some personal ones that he gets into in great detail. So, both of them are worth watching for anybody who's an Inter Miami fan or a soccer fan. It's interesting to always see behind the scenes. What are these people like behind the scenes, and what's the scene like behind the scenes?
Well, it sounds like I have some streaming TV watching homework to do, and so do you, everybody out there. If you really care to learn a little more about David Beckham and care to learn even more about Lionel Messi, I'm sure. Michelle, so like we talked about, highly unlikely he plays the next game. Iffy about the last one, maybe just because of those factors that we talked about. But what's left for this team, whether or not he plays? What's left for this team? I mean, I'm sure there's guys that want to impress the brass in the last final game of the season, even though it doesn't mean anything for the postseason for them. But team guys that want to assure themselves that they'll be back next season, probably. So I guess mean, give everybody kind of a layout on what to expect and what's there to play for Inter Miami in that final game.
Right. Well, in these final two
Final games.
games, yeah, what there is to play for is pride. We interviewed Drake Callender and DeAndre Yedlin after this last game, and they both talked about it that they don't want to end the season on a giant losing streak. They don't want to end the season on a negative note. There was so much positive in July and August, and in moments after that, but really in September and October have been kind of tough for the team, much of September and October. So they want to end it on a positive note. And yes, this is when Tata has already said, right now that we're not in the playoffs, this is for the future. These next two games are for the future. And by that, he means he and his staff are going to be evaluating all the players now, the people that are on the bubble, who are maybe going to be in the plans, but maybe not. How they play in the next two games is going to be really, really important. Some of these players that are on the edge are going to have more playing time for sure Wednesday, because with a lot of the guys missing for the national teams, Kamal Miller will be back from his Canadian duty. I believe Ascona will be back. But other than that, I think all the other players will still be gone or just coming back that day, which is Robert Taylor, Lionel Messi, Facundo Farias is out with the Argentina team. So there are a lot of players. Christoph is off with Ukraine. There are a lot of players that are going to be missing. And this is going to be an opportunity for some of the players who don't get as much playing time to impress the bosses and stay. They want to make a case for staying on the roster next year. Everybody wants to play on this team. Everyone wants to play with Lionel Messi, Sergio Busquets, and Jordi Alba. Let's face it. You have a chance to play with those three. You'll want to play. Oh, Kramaski is also missing. By the way, he's another one I forgot to mention. He is not with the U.S. national team, but he's with the U.S. He's in an Olympic training camp, the U.S. Olympic team training camp. He got called into that in Phoenix, and they also have a game on the 17th. So he's another one that's probably going to be missing on Wednesday. So it's going to be opportunity for other players who have not got much time to try to state their case, to try to prove themselves. Also, Tata said that he believes that Gregory, remember Gregory, the captain of this team at the beginning of the season?
Wow.
He apparently, his target date for coming back is the game of the 18th, and Jordi Alba.
Hmm.
Jordi Alba and Gregory are slated to come back on the game of the 18th. So, that is two things to watch for that are going to be positive. Both of those players are dying to come back. Gregory has not played since the very beginning of the season. He had a foot surgery, then had a setback on that. So he's such a good player, and he's such a leader and such a good guy. And he's had to sit out basically this whole season. He's not had an opportunity to play with Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets. So he would be a big addition if, I don't know how he'll be again with rust, having not played the whole season, but the target date for him to come back was this game of the 18th. And Tata said multiple times that Jordi Alba, they are also shooting for the game of the 18th for Jordi Alba to come back. So those are two things that fans can look forward to, and that the teammates can look forward to, the return of two really big time players who have been injured and have not been able to help out. So those are two extra little bonus things that fans can watch for, that the players will be excited about, that the coaches, I'm sure, will be encouraged to see those guys to play. And then, Joseph Martinez is out too. Another one. I was just going to say, it'll be a chance for Joseph to state his case, but no. Joseph was with Venezuela. Joseph was with the Venezuela national team. So it's going to be a very depleted roster. It's going to be a very depleted roster, but with the possible return of Jordi Alba and Gregory, those are two big players who would be returning. They still don't fill 8 spots, but they would be, two really big pieces that would be coming back potentially for that game. Charlotte is obviously going to be very fired up. They're still in the playoff picture. So that game is going to be really big. We'll see what happens for the final game. But the game of the 18th, I'm sure they're going to be highly, highly motivated. And the Miami team is just going to be motivated to try to get 3 points again. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah, and like you said, Charlotte's still in it, so the spoiler role too. That's the interesting part too. You
Yes.
never know. I mean, that's a little bit of that mixed in as well. But but the return of those guys gives it some spice. I mean, especially Alba, get him back in the lineup, and Gregory's a great story for him to at least be able to get in there close to the finish line like that. So there's something. There's definitely, it's meaningless for the playoffs, but not meaningless entirely. So it's still going to be something
Right.
to watch for. And then
Yeah, the other one is
bonus
and
if Messi
Campana
plays.
also.
Oh, and Campana,
And
right?
if Campana comes back, he had a slight sort of a hamstring tweak that happened in the previous game to the last, so he missed the last game. If he can come back, that would be huge. If you could have on the field Wednesday or Wednesday and Sunday, Wednesday and Saturday of next week, if you could have Leo Campana on Wednesday and Jordi Alba and Gregory playing with the rest of the team that they have, with DeAndre Yedlin, with Drake Callender, with Kamal Miller, with Tomas Aviles. There's still some good players there, and that would be a decent lineup. And then for the Saturday game, if Messi were to play, if he decides to play and all the other guys are back from national team duty, if they could field a full team, even though the game means nothing, I don't know that they would, but if they could, that would be a lot of fun if they could do that.
Definitely. I mean, it could be a sneak peek of things to come if they can finish on a high note, considering next season everybody expects this team to get even stronger somehow after the off season. Maybe they sign more stars from other places, and all of a sudden they can really take this league by storm if they have that type of team from the start this time, not when they were already buried like they were in 2023. So fun times ahead, and obviously the international games in the works as well. Michelle and I will be documenting that. We'll be coming back to you for another episode next week to see how things went, after at that point. And, we'll recap the final two games, no matter what happens, whether Messi plays or not, and all those returns. So we thank you as usual for watching the show. Remember, you can listen to it. If you listen to it, on any podcatcher, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. And you can find it at miamiherald.com and, of course, on YouTube. But once again, we thank you for watching, and we thank you for listening. For Michelle Kaufman, I'm Andre Fernandez. We'll catch you next time on Inside Inter Miami.